And we are on air. Welcome to episode 4 of the BITPodium Netcast. And we have a very special guest with us this evening, and we'll get there very shortly. This whole episode is about community management, which I've heard has been called the everything department because it isn't just in one part of the organization anymore. But just before we get to that, just checking in with what our latest news is going on in the industry. Dave, what's happening for you at the moment in the ITSM world?
Okay. Well, what I'm mostly engaged in is a few projects. I'm doing a lot of projects within the Netherlands. I have a strong focus on that country. Doing things like helping customers to implement. We have customers who have a service integration question, and we're helping them to fill in that question using Agile and Lean. So
Okay.
they want to use things like SIAM and other frameworks that are very useful in that area, like COBIT and ITIL. But I'm applying Agile and Lean in order to make those actually work and then make all the people just very much engaged in all that process, make it quick processes and also sustainable and continuous improvement and those kind of things. So that's quite interesting subjects and projects, I must say.
Well, certainly Agile and Lean are very hot topics, aren't they?
Yeah, they're hot. Some may call them trends or whatever, but I would say it's just a natural evolution. And it's just more than ever using common sense in our daily work.
Yeah. And Sean, Mr. McLean, welcome to another episode on the crew. So how's the virtual training world treating you?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm actually juggling right now a virtual class, so I will be dropping out pretty quickly, but I was really excited to hear about community. Of course, I'm very engaged in the ServiceNow community with Laurenceau. We've got a couple of articles we're looking to post coming out in the near future. But if I drop off, my apologies. I definitely want to be able to listen in and participate in the rest of it.
Oh, you can always class involved.
I thought about that, but actually they're going to be hearing me in the background while I'm teaching or have the video. I think it would be a little confusing for everybody.
Oh, that's right. Well, actually, the latest news that I have, this is the very first time in many years that I've actually missed out on the Australian ITSMF Lead It conference. They just had that last week. And some amazing things, as usual, coming out of that. Lots of new, rich content, lots more international cross-referencing and speakers as well, and some great new talent that was there. So I was living vicariously at the conference through the Twitter feed, the #LeadIt tag, so have a search on that and see what's going on there and have a look at what's happened. But some other brilliant things in addition to the content. There's some great blogs that have been written about the experiences and what went on by various attendees and speakers, like our knowledge bird, April Allen, and quite a number of other people. Stuart Rance and James Finister, I understand, were treated to some Australian wildlife experiences to the point where ITSM Penguin got snaffled by a koala and the keeper had to actually save Pengy. Which was one of those
awesome
events that you need to see the photos to really enjoy. And my all-time favorite, I think, from the time was Karen Ferris, who was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award at the conference for her incredible contribution, and whether that's white papers and teaching, advice and guidance, but also all her time spent on the ITSMF board and just, you know, all-round inspiration, because she was actually one of my, if I can use the word hero, in ITSM that actually got me started on a number of different things. So that was fabulous stuff. The Pink Forum is going on at the moment in Las Vegas. A lot of the people that were at Lead It have actually moved over to Las Vegas, I believe it is, and trying to look at how the whole thing is going to evolve, which is what BITPodium is all about, business living with IT. So speaking of business living with IT, community management is our topic, and we call it the everything department, I believe. And we have a very special guest with us, Matt Laurenceau. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Simon. Hey, everybody.
Hey, and I'd like you to give a very snapshot bio about who you are and how you ended up in community management.
Sure. So I'm a service management person. Like I learned ITIL with a couple of products last century, and in the past 3 years I've been owning BMC Communities, which is the branded community from BMC Software, where we help customers succeed. So that's the past 3 years, and actually the way things moved is that I was a power user of the community and had a lot of ideas to make it grow. So then I have been handed over the community.
Be careful what you wish for, isn't it?
Indeed. And good managers. Good managers are important there.
So what is the definition of community management? I mean, if it's not playing around with social media and forums, what is that?
It's caring about users, making sure users succeed. I guess that's the outside-in approach. On a pure selfish point of view, that's keeping customers loyal and loyal to your brand and wanting to engage even more with you and for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many items to make that happen, and it's not one person. It's a team. When you say everything department, well, we quickly saw that every team within BMC was needed to make a success out of that.
Okay, so it's Matt and Dave. And Sean, what's been your experience of what community management is about? I mean, Sean, you're involved with ServiceNow communities. What's your definition of what it is?
Well, and it's a shame. I think Lawrence would have some good feedback as well to add for this. He is, of course, a ServiceNow's community owner and manager. But it's interesting to me that communities constantly evolve by getting engagement, and it's that keeping engagement that's super important. One of the contexts that I'm interested in for us is people, it's a shame gamification has kind of become a buzzword that has negative connotations as well as positive. But a lot of times with keeping community, incentivizing people to stay involved and engaged and showing that's the key point, many of the concepts of gamification help bring that and keep that engagement there. And so that's one element, just to keeping that in. And a manager kind of balances the element of getting those pieces as well as not making them become too much or become too fad so that they disappear. So it seems to me the engagement manager's job is a really interesting one, but kind of one of staying on the latest trends and keeping people there.
And for you, Dave?
Well, it's communities are like flocks with a common goal. So you have to have a common goal as a community, and that can be a commercial goal or a non-commercial goal, but it has to be has to bring some kind of value for everyone in the community, because otherwise that person in the community won't contribute. And that's different from other things. So communities are cross organizations, and that makes it very interesting. You can also talk about a community, for instance, within one organization. Like I've worked with communities of key users or super users, and combining them all and trying to get all the requirements above, etc. But to me, a real community is cross organization, and finding common goals and common sets of values and those things. That's quite interesting for me.
And
So, yeah, go
I
on,
like
Matt.
what you just said about common goals, but indeed making sure that brains who are not familiar with each other connect. So it's like a speed dating kind of thing. We need to find the right balance on having the same people, the same teams together. That's good, but nihito, nothing important happens in the office. So we need teams to learn from others. So support team engages and blog post expertise, lovely. Then they need to learn also from consulting services, then customers, then partners. Everybody learn from each other to benefit to everybody.
Yeah, go, Sean.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one thing to what Matt said, and I think, Simone, this would be applicable to you. This is where Lawrence and I got interested in the community element. And I noticed, Matt, you kept mentioning learning. And that's one of the things that's super interesting to me. We tend to think of learning as having a beginning and an end. We teach a class. It starts and it ends. But the neat thing about a community is it extends beyond those places. And so if you can combine community with training, you have something fascinating going on, because really a lot of things in the most current MOOCs, there's a class in University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. They're talking about the idea that we really need to move towards this concept of always be learning. Right, and so a class doesn't have a definitive end and beginning, and communities are the I think the answer to that for us that are trainers like yourself, where you go, well, I start the class and I end the class. Well, now what? Well, now there's a community.
It kind of reminds me of, because you can build up a very strong relationship in a very short space of time in a classroom, or whether that's virtual or face-to-face. I prefer the face-to-face. It's much easier to gauge in the communication side of things. But it kind of reminds me of the Frank Sinatra singing "Strangers in the Night." So Matt, I mean, how do you... I mean, it's like there's that moment of hello, and then there's the rest of your life. How do you bring the strangers then in that organization together? What's the key elements?
I guess, the website, the experience on the website should be good in the first 3 minutes or whatever the actual figure is. Definitely the same on any community. Like the first couple of seconds for somebody in the community should be amazing. So he should be empowered and enlightened with a compelling blog post. He should have a welcome video or something so that he feels comfortable. And when we're talking about gamification, so his first experience needs to be cool. Perhaps he would receive a badge or something, points for whatever he did, and go from here and learn step by step. So at the end of the day, all the skills needed to be a power user on a community happen seamlessly, step after step. But yeah, each experience needs to be a win to use this gamification vocabulary.
Yeah. So Dave, what kind of communities do you find that you engage with as an expert in your field? And then how does that translate for how you help organizations?
There are a number of, like you could call the service management community a community, of course. People just sharing knowledge on what happens in the ITSM world, using Twitter, for instance, or using another channel. So there might be several channels where they interact or cross channels. There's also, for instance, we in the Netherlands, we also have a number of communities on a more micro level, where people, IT professionals, they see each other at events or whatever, and they share knowledge and etc. And they also have common goals too, because they share an interest in a certain line of business or whatever. With those communities, as long as you bring information yourself and you bring new stuff and you help organize events and those things, you also get those things back. You get enthusiasm and you get ideas and you go from there. So every year I organize a Service Manager Day in Holland, and you can't believe how much energy that gives just by people engaging regarding one topic, or a number of topics, which are all around service management, because that's very broad, of course. But the community just gives energy as long as you put energy in it yourself.
So, Matt, another question for you then, like carrying on from what Davis said, because I find from my background, because it's not just purely IT, I'm involved in many other things, the leadership in the HR and, the broader training and development community, etc., and just other things of interest. We all have our hobbies. So whether that's art or it's sports or, there's other communities that we're part of. So how important is it for business living with IT and the other way around to get them engaged in each other's other community facets?
Oh.
And is that valuable in terms of how they can learn from each other?
Yeah, so it definitely lies down to the signal to noise ratio. Like a lot of people may not enjoy, let's say Twitter. I'm not picking on Twitter at all. I like this media a lot, but may not enjoy Twitter because they did not nurture the right followers, and it's hard for them to get engagement. So if the right communities group the right people, so that whenever somebody asks something or posts some knowledge, then he gets feedback from others, then everybody wins from that. So grouping the right people is a fun, the right scope is a fun exercise, I guess, and making seamless access to content.
Yeah, I think that seamless access to content is important. Like as an example, a thought that I had, and Sean and Dave chime in on your experience around this, but I know that when I first started managing in IT and call centers and that sort of space, you're not necessarily trained in how to do budgets well, or how to access certain information properly, or who can I actually have a chat with, not just look at a document or a workflow, about how in the hell do I get this budget fixed the right way? I really don't understand it. And it would be great if the business actually had the forum of people that do budgets, for example, and that had their financial experts that are happy to contribute and help you that way. What's been everyone else's experience in this way?
I guess so when you said about business interacting with teams, it's definitely about more the social intranet kind of thing. So it's not the kind of stuff I officially work on, at least. But at the end of the day, it's the same kind of engagement. What we've done, for example, is beta programs and advisory boards, so that somebody who owns a product from BMC, or when we made releases on the new version of BMC communities, we interacted with key users on what they wanted and how we could help them more, etc. So again, it's about grouping users at the same place at the same time.
And to which extent do you find communities self-organizing, or do they need steering, guidance, etc.? What are the best communities in your view?
So so I use if I look at all my tabs here on my browser, I use a lot of various communities. The one I can speak about are definitely the one I own on BMC communities, and depending on the culture of the teams, product A, product B, product C, the way they engage is really beneficial or highly beneficial for the customers, or maybe less. So so it's definitely about this outsiding thinking to make sure customers progress.
So the level of interaction is what determines the value of the community?
Let's say the activity overall, so that users are pleased. Whenever they have something to talk about, well, others help them. And that's what you said about some good communities, we have pretty strong products like AR system, for example, where the community is fully owned by the users. Key customers and key partners are the one who enable the huge crowd, and we get exciting viral enablement thanks to that.
So is there, I mean, we talk about, look, the role of community manager is still fairly new as an official role, if you like. Sometimes it sits within the organization, outside of IT, and sometimes it sits within IT. So, I mean, what is it that's grown from, you presented at TFT 14 Winter, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all around this community management and the role. So how has it become, how has this role become better now, and what advantages are we getting from it? I mean, does this role include that you also have to measure the value of what's happening in the communities? Like Dave said, which ones have been self-perpetuating versus ones that have time and effort to manage them, and what kind of metrics can we get out of this, and useful things that we can make practical decisions from?
Sure. Very rarely are the communities owned by IT. I mean, the one at least I work with, they are not owned by IT, mostly owned by product management or support, or people who really care about how customers enjoy their products, the products they work for. So then on each community, it's important to know the engagement style. Do users ask but nobody answers? That's bad. That's highly bad. When people ask, do they get answers from others? And it may be other community members, obviously not the vendor. Then do we have people shaping up, collaborating on quality of the content that will be delivered from time to time? Because a community is like a love affair. You need to seed from time to time so that it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So
occasionally you need to put a little more effort in, and yeah.
So we definitely need this kind of person. If you follow VCR, the Community Roundtable, they recently shared some stats on how many lurkers make sense for a community compared to how many contributors, how many creators, all of these things. And definitely, when we look at all the communities, we see where we need to improve to help the community even more.
What's your opinion around, Dave, what makes the best style of community, and the sort of things that we should be looking at to know it's working or not working?
Oh, that's a deep question.
Huh? I asked the tough ones,
Yeah. How do you know if a community is not working? That also inclines you to think, what kind of result does a community deliver?
Yes.
Because you want to look at the results. You don't want to look too much at the process, because how it happens, I don't care. I just want value from it.
Yeah, that's a really good statement. I don't care how it happens.
Yeah. So if a community is successful, then I would have to need good results. For me, going into a community has different type of value, different results that it can bring. I would say it might be, you might, I'm thinking out loud, you might think of a community goal, which is a joint goal, and you also will have individual goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would judge a community for its value, I would look at the shared goal, of course, but maybe even more look at my individual goals. And hopefully they coincide. I would say that communities with a lot of interaction, and where it's very focused on sharing content, for me, that is that is by definition a good community. But that's a very broad statement, of course. So it's hard to pin it down and to make it more detailed.
I think part of the difficulty might be, especially if you've given the role as a community manager, that there are skills that are needed, and I know, Matt, that you expanded on some of that in your TFT presentation, so I'll make sure that there's a link to that as well. I think that the business should be really looking for the skills in these people that already exist in their business. Simply because those people, if we want to form them into community managers as such, or subject matter expertise forums in a way, that they already have the organization knowledge. You know, it's not just going to be, as you said, I don't care how the process happens as long as I get the result. And I think one of the biggest skill sets of getting that result is to make sure you've got people that can coordinate the knowledge, understanding how it impacts the organization and the different groups and areas within organization. And I don't mean silo departments. I don't mean just finance info for finance. I mean the groups of people that naturally congregate in the lunchroom to have a chat about something that's going on.
So, yeah, one way to define a community manager is that he or she orchestrates others, so that the members are happy, so that the members are sticky. If the members are not sticky, it is not a successful community.
There's lots of ways to get sticky in a nice way, I'm sure.
It's an interesting word, orchestration. Do you orchestrate or do you facilitate? To me, those are different things.
Definitely depends on each on the maturity curve of each community, honestly. So pretty often, as I said before, you need to seed, you need to lead by example at the beginning, so that people follow whatever was shown initially. But then you need people with various skills to jump in. Pure engineering skills, sometimes more marketing view, sometimes more whatever, more localization specifics in Netherlands or in French, or you need to be able to spot the right people. So when you said we don't care on how it happens, well, the outcome doesn't care, but everything needs to be facilitated internally so that we can reach out to the right people.
I think orchestration is still a good word, because for me, I think about, for example, if I'm at a music concert and you have all the different sections of the orchestra, the strings and the keyboards and the the percussion and everything else, the individuals have, they've learnt the music. They have the sheet music in front of them, like a knowledge article for some of our people, that guides them through if they just need to have a quick glance at what they're doing and know that they're still on the right track. They have the ability to see each other, see how people are moving and their expressions. They have the expertise. The conductor doesn't always, yes, they know the music, but they don't necessarily physically know how to play all those instruments. But what they do know how to do is how to bring this section in strong, or just bring this section in soft, or those kinds of things through the language that's used to facilitate that. So I think orchestration is probably still a good word to use.
And to use this instrument analogy, I guess, I'm not sure honestly, that the orchestrator,
the conductor,
conductor, thank you, listens to the outcome, to all the instruments together. He cares about the outcome. The community manager cares about sentiment of the community members. If people are not happy, there's something to fix. So he will pick the violin, the guitar, the drum. He will pick the right people so that they make the music better.
Yeah. I think that's a lovely analogy.
It is.
Your analogy.
it's very good to focus on the outcome. That's a good emphasis. Yeah.
Because people know if one, I mean, the conductor knows, and especially if the audience cringe, you know when somebody plays the wrong phrase or it's out of sync with the rest of the music. You can hear it. It stands out like a sore thumb, you know. I know good old Ozzy saying that one, which is really interesting. Well, I think what we might do is we're getting towards the top of our time, as we normally do on the podcast. So, Dave, I want to say, do you have any other questions for Matt or anything that you'd like to express about community management in general?
Well, the thing I'm very interested in, how do you see community management in 3 years? And what is it a separate expertise as big as service management is, or bigger?
Wow. Everybody needs to be a community manager. If you're a manager in IT, in HR, you need to help your community. You need to make sure that your team members help the broader community, the customers. So in that definition, I'd say that community management needs to be, I mean, will be a far bigger topic and skill in the future, and service management sure needs to leverage it.
Okay, so it's like a role or a competence that everyone should have.
Not good point. Not everyone. In each community, and we talked already about the scoping of a committee. It needs not to be too small. We don't want any silo. It needs not to be too big. We don't want noise that is meaningless for everybody. So in each community, you need one single person who is responsible for community management, making sure the overall sentiment is good in the community.
Okay.
Then you have a lot of bees helping out from the various teams with their core skills in HR, finance,
sales,
engineering, etc., etc.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's like customer support. You know what?
It's a people
it's
role,
like
isn't
desk.
it?
It's like service desk.
Okay.
Service desk, but who has ways to reach out to level 1, level 2, level 3 in a very easy manner.
Well, I would hope that would be a natural part of any of the leadership style things within IT and within the business, that if you're a team leader, whether that's in IT or you're managing 2 or 3 clerks or you're managing some trainers, do you know what I mean? I would say that is part of being having that relationship. I think community management managers need relationship skill sets, but I think where the expertise in community management comes in is around understanding all the technology that's used within community management that helps. It's not the focus, it's to get that seamless access you were talking about before, Matt. You know, how do we use this to... So I think it's important that they also have those skill sets around how to use the various social channel tools as well as the platform tools.
Yeah, it's all about user experience. So if the information is interesting but hard to consume, you fail. So we have to balance content and technologies that is used to deliver it.
Yeah, or the interaction technologies, not just the delivery, the actual interaction ability. I did come across a really interesting ebook, actually, while I was researching this. It's called A Collection of Community Management Advice. And it was pulled together by the community manager and MarketWire. It's a 60-page ebook, and you can actually get it on SlideShare. I'll put the link up. But it's about useful tips from leaders in the space, and apparently it covers lots of topics, including customer service and community manager dynamic, advice for new community managers, and of course the role of community management in marketing. And a lot of people forget in the world of like IT or in other cases that everything that we do in terms of our interaction is marketing. Who we are and why you want to be with us, and I don't mean from a sales by our product perspective, I mean a part of that community.
Yeah.
And I think this is where places like HEAA, as an association in Australia, ITSMF on an international level, and Help Desk Institute and their giant community as well around the world. I think that's part of you want to. That's all marketing as well. I think people have a bad view of marketing in terms of they don't understand it's actually it's not just someone waving the red flag saying buy this. It's actually like be part of this because it's service. It's not just this is not a physical product. Being community, I don't think at all. This is knowledge and expertise and the ability to help people learn and grow.
And Simon, what happened to me recently is definitely support what you just said. I used to be part of the social media team, so and my community uses a lot, obviously Twitter and LinkedIn and all others to reach out to the mass. But now BMC Communities is part of corporate marketing, the branding area. Now I'm part of the branding team. What happens on the community is what we want users to know, what we want everybody to be proud about, because we help happy customers. We make them win.
Interesting. This whole idea of this, yes. There's. I'll finish off in a quote that I did find, but I think there's still a lot more to be learnt and understood about community management and being a community manager, and where that sits in the organisation. Dave, any final last words from you?
No, I think this is a great conversation, and we should follow this up, and especially also last comments around marketing. I think service management is also much about marketing, with marketing IT and your IT services. So this might bring some new topics to the table for some future events. So
I'm thinking maybe we might even, Matt, have you back in a little while, but we'll have you join with David Favell, a previous guest on social media. And that might be, we might have to put you in the boxing ring, I don't know. But I think there's some great synergies there. I have to also, to our audience, apologies for our core host, Daniel Billing. The reason I'm sitting in for him today is because it seems that he's battling some difficulties with weather in Sweden. So he couldn't be with us. Sean was with us for a little while, but he's back into his virtual classroom. So attending to raising the minds of some more service management people there. And to wind up, our favorite quotes or quotes that we've found, Howard Thurman was an influential author, philosopher, and civil rights leader. He said, "Community cannot for long feed on itself. It can only flourish with the coming of others from beyond, their unknown and undiscovered brothers." We always need to keep growing and outside the community. But the one I had from Peter Redmer, who you can follow on Twitter as well, he works from Magenium Solutions in Chicago, and he said, "Social media managers work in the marketing department. Community managers work in the everything department." Hence the title of our podcast today. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, our special guest, Matt Laurenceau, very much for joining us. Dave, we hope that the rest of your day, because here in Europe it is at the end of the day now, and of course to the rest of you, our audience globally, no matter which part of the day or time zone you're in, we hope you've enjoyed this, and by all means leave your comments and send us in the questions. Go to www.bitpodium.com website, where you will find information, the ability to contact us, and also too, the next guest could be you. So please do, by all means, if you have something to share about business living with IT, that's exactly what we want to know about. So thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world.